you hear people that live in markets like ours and they're like, how the heck do you invest in real estate?
Just do the first one, that proof of concept. Don't rush to get another deal. It just starts rolling. It really is a snowball. When I found out I was going to be a dad, just fear was a great motivator. The CEO of NVIDIA is predicting that the service job, to be electrician, the plumber, those are going to be the jobs most in demand in the next 10 years. I really think that's what gives people the most freedom is when you own your own business because you're calling the shots.
Welcome to another episode of the Agent to Investor podcast, where we talk about the agent side of real estate investing. We'll be talking about the successes, the failures, and all in between. My name is Nico Garcia, local real estate agent and investor based out of Montgomery County, Maryland. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host.
I'm Anna Bialik, Northern Virginia realtor and mostly out-of-state investor. And Nico's going to do the intro, but I'm excited because last time this person was here, I don't know where I was, but I wasn't here.
She was too cool. I think you were on vacation, but yes.
I may have been.
We do have another special guest, my good friend, Ben Vito. Welcome back to the show, brother.
Thank you. Yeah, glad to do it with Anna in the house this time. Get the full effect.
Yeah.
So we did have Ben on episode 21. So he was able to kind of go over his background, a little bit about why he got into real estate investing. So definitely tune into episode 21 so you can hear a little bit more about Ben. But we want to give you some space for, the clip notes, the quick, what you're doing, where you are, and where you're
what's
investing.
Changed?
Yeah, what's changed?
Yeah, I teach full time. I live in the Bay Area. Got into real estate investing when I found out I was going to be a dad. Just fear was a great motivator to do something different. In terms of what's changed, I think I've been a little more intentional in my practice, trying to put more offers out, get more deals. Still not wanting to have a giant portfolio, but kind of subscribing to the idea, you grow it intensely for the next 5 to 10 years, and then you can start kind of pruning and, hopefully you've made some appreciation, some debt pay down on the ones you choose to sell, and then you can kind of further pay down debt on others. And then I just think the name of the game is getting the cash flow on the rentals to be high. So that's kind of what I've been focused on, I would say, in the last, really since I joined RPM to be a little more focused since March. And then another big move we did to kind of commit towards that goal was we had a mobile home that we lived in that those kind of operate as a hybrid. You own the home, but not the land. So we rent and pay a mortgage. And it was a great way to save costs. They're actually a lot cheaper than most rentals out there. But, we had a decent amount of money in it from the down payment and all that. So we decided to sell it right before I joined RPM. And we basically took the money from that sale, and then we just bought our first free and clear rental with that. And so that's been a pretty powerful experience to go from having a liability to an asset that's really paying us, more than that measly, not measly, but, cash flow is tight when you have a mortgage. So that's been pretty cool to see that. Just trying to grow smartly, but not slowly.
Yeah. You brought up a few, we're all part of Coach Carson's RPM Rental Property Mastery. And, Ben talks exactly what Anna and I, we all have the same mindset, right? We want to scale, but nice and steady and slowly, not, to 1,000 doors. And following Ben's journey has been pretty cool because, you hear people that live in markets like ours and they're like, how the heck do you invest in real estate? And I know Ben's investing in markets that he has yet to go to, right? And you're investing for cash flow. So I know we talked a little bit about, your initial process of pulling that trigger and going out of state. But since then, I know you've scaled quite a bit. So how has that, that process worked? I know you're doing a few BRRRRs and things like that, correct?
Yes. Yeah, I think being an out-of-state investor, everybody's goals are maybe different, but I would really encourage a market that you can afford. Don't go swinging for an appreciating market if it's not going to cash flow and the debt's really high. And it's like, imagine your mortgage, presuming you're going to buy one without a tenant in there. And then if that number feels too high, like I would kind of avoid that situation. So I chose to focus on a market where I felt like, all right, there's a vacancy on this first one, and I can still like I'm not gonna be sweating it, you know. So that's one of the beautiful things I think about investing out of state. And so from there, you know, you just kind of lean into the relationships that you form with everyone that's helping you, and you're helping them and the community, right? Because a lot of the properties were burning or fixing up or not livable. So, I guess the scaling aspect has really just been leaning into the relationships, specifically the property managers, the lender that I work with, or one of the lenders I work with, local banks. And that really helped in the agents too. And everyone kind of has their team within their team, right? So like, you know, I have a team that I work with that they all kind of know each other, but then I have another one over here that all kind of know each other when it comes to property management and the agent side of stuff. So doing business with all of them, just kind of, you know, trying to scale in that manner and see what worked for you.
So what market are you, sorry, I'm going to back up because for those that haven't run back and listened to episode 21, what market are you in now and which markets are you investing in?
I'm only in one. It's Evansville. It's the southern Indiana. It's the third biggest city in the state, but it's in southern Indiana. About 100,000 people north of there. Appreciation is like maybe 2 to 3% year to year. It's not super high, not super low. Within that, there's certain areas that have gone up more than others. So that's another thing. Out-of-state investing is really neighborhood by neighborhood. And so I really like that size of a town. It's not super overwhelming, but it's also not super small, and you can still kind of buy some nice homes that are going to appreciate, that are closer to the U.S. median. Or you can buy, you know, really cheap ones where they're going to capital.
Talk to us, Ben, about, you mentioned your team and how you initially set up your team. You know, for those that haven't done, you know, out-of-state investing, what type of people are you looking for when you're looking to get into a different market?
I think people you enjoy talking to on the phone. My experience has been that's the majority of communication. So they have to pick up or call you back within a reasonable amount of time, or respond to email or text, or it's got to be someone you feel good communicating with. You know, kind of get to know them before you go into business with them. What are their values? Ask about their personal life, ask for referrals, and then kind of go from there. And I think a good piece of advice too is, you know, just do the first one, that proof of concept. Don't rush to get another deal, by the way. I think a lot of us put pressure to scale, and scaling is important, but especially in the beginning, you're really just looking for, at least I was, proof of concept. And then you kind of figure it out from there. Like, yeah, I want to keep working with this group. Do I want to try another group? And then compare notes, and maybe you work with both of them, which is kind of what I'm doing. So it really isn't something you want to rush. And again, this communicating. I think if you can't have a good conversation with these people, then that's probably not a good sign, and you want to find something.
Yeah. So specifically, and I know you mentioned you have a lender out there, and I'm assuming you have a real estate agent. How did you initially like start that combo and start building the team? Was there one person and then kind of it grew from there?
Yeah, the first person was a property manager who was also a licensed contractor, really small role, like in-house family business kind of thing. And he reminded me a lot of my dad, just good vibe. So I did the first deal, kind of a turnkey with him, again, for that proof of concept. And then, you know, as our relationship has grown, you know, he was like, here's an agent that I like to work with, which is nice, because then if I call our agent, there's not that extra coordination of, well, can you get this guy in? Like, they already are buddies, right? So they're doing this thing on their own. And he's also an investor. So I think that's actually really helpful too for people who are investors themselves, because they understand the game. And then the mortgage broker I used for that deal, they knew that particular property manager, but then like they had their own kind of in-house thing too. And so they hooked me up with another agent, and then he kind of had his people. And so you just kind of like lean into who people enjoy working with out there. They already have their systems in place, and, you know, like you don't have to create things yourself is what I'm saying. And you can lean into those relationships that already exist and leverage them by being a good client.
For sure. I do want to talk about specifically the lending side, because I know we've spoken off camera, and I think actually Anna as well, but in a market that she's in, she focuses on the local lenders. For you, what has been beneficial for building that relationship with, somebody that's actually local to that Evansville market?
Okay, yeah, that's really good. But I'll kind of break it down into the two kind of areas where this has helped me grow my portfolio. One is a broker that I like to work with, and this guy's like really connected to all the local banks. So and then I have another local bank that I specifically bank with, and then they also do lending. So like I kind of have these two relationships there. And so if the local bank, they only do what they do. So if they don't have a product that I think works great for a particular project, then I'll go to the broker, and yeah, I'll pay a little bit more, but I'll get a better product that way, depending upon what I want to do. And they have been instrumental in helping me scale because they just know the market. They know that I'm going to pay on time, and you kind of establish a reputation as time goes on. So they like working with me, and they have all my experience. I mean, that's the other thing. Like if you go find another, I don't have a lot of free time. So, there actually was a refinance one time where it's like, I could just go with this guy. It's going to cost me a little more, but he has all my stuff. Or I go find this other lender who's not in the state, national kind of thing. And, it was a referral. I'm sure it would have been great, but I didn't want to, like the amount of documents I would have used to curate would have been a lot. So that's also important.
Yeah. And then I'll ask one more question, and then Anna can come in. But specifically about these lending products, when you were telling me how you bought these renovation projects, I was like, whoa, that sounds pretty interesting. And I actually never even heard of it. So you mind talking about, like, I think it was a 20-year or something like that, what type of product that was and how it's been beneficial for you?
In Evansville, a lot of the property values that are rental, which are, C plus, maybe even some B minus, for sure lower too. The property values are not high enough to get that $100,000 loan, which is what a lot of DSCR lenders like. So the loans that I'm using are commercial loans, and most of them are 20-year loans that are adjustable rate mortgages every 5 years. And I know a lot of investors are like, stay away from adjustable rate, but I actually, and I believe that too, to some degree, but I actually think that in this particular market, because the property values are low, like if the interest rate's 9%, it only changes your payment by like $100 because all these loan amounts are so small. And the rents have really exploded in the last, 3 years that I've been investing in. So I'm not too worried about those. But specifically in terms of like rehabbing and scaling, a lot of what these loans allow you to do is refinance properties subject to the appraisal that is based on a list of improvements that you provide the bank. So you actually haven't done the work yet. And then they kind of pay you draws on the loan amount once the appraisal is approved as you kind of do the work. So a good comparison example here on one property, as far as like how I choose what banks to work with and whatnot, is there was a refinance that we were trying to do. I say we because this one was owned with some partner, where the appraisal came in low, and we're like, ooh, that kind of shoots the numbers here. And the local bank is who we were going to use, the one that we actually do our checking account with. And they were like, yeah, like we can only give you this because that's what the appraisal said. And this was for just a traditional refinance. And then we're like, okay, well, what if we do a subject to appraisal refinance? And so we had to propose improvement. We typed out a list. We told them who the contractor is going to be. And then the appraiser comes back, reviews that list, and they're kind of using their imagination a little bit, but they then reappraise your project, and we got a way higher number. And it actually kind of worked out better because all those repairs we needed to do anyway. So it was actually a really good situation there. So I like to use those kind of products when I can. They're kind of like a reverse BRRRR, because in the traditional BRRRR, you're kind of like borrowing money or using cash to do all the work and then you refinance it. But in this one, it's kind of like, we'll give you the money as well.
Yeah. All right, Anna, you don't have any questions on that?
No, I mean, that sounds very similar to what Brian and I did down in Danville with the local bank, that like they have their own portfolio of loans. And so they did we bought it, but it was gutted to the studs. And they kind of did the same thing where they did an appraisal. They estimated based off of the contractor like renovations, what they thought it was going to appraise for. And then when it was done, they reappraised it and then rolled it into a 20-year commercial loan. Same kind of deal. Though I'm all about like the small local banks that can kind of tweak their loan products because they're not trying to sell them off to Fannie and Freddie Mae, like to bundle them up per the standards to sell them off.
And are yours 80% LTVs?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's awesome because a lot of lenders don't like them that high.
Yeah, and they had like prepayment penalties in there for like the first 5 years. And we're like, oh, we don't really like that. I mean, we don't plan to refinance it. And they're like, okay, we can just take that out. Like, I mean, so we were able to like read through and like say negotiate with them. But it's easier to do that with these small local banks that kind of like keep their loans in house as opposed to like the big like Chevy Chase banks or Citizens that have to conform to standards that we don't. So yeah, no, I don't have a question. I was just, I relate. I've done that. It's an amazing tactic. I love it.
Then
and they let you do all kinds of things that big banks don't. I know one deal that I posted about, I was able to put my 20% down in the form of equity. And so on that one, I really didn't have to bring any money to the closing table. They just put a lien against one of my rentals that had a good amount of equity in it. And then they just wrote the loan, funded the whole thing, and I closed with like just a lien, which is going to go away as soon as I reach 20% LTV on the down payment or the principal pay down as that thing goes on for years. But I mean, like the lien, so what? Even if you sell the property, you just pay the lien. Like it's important to pay it. So yeah, a lot of cool things you can do.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Like a portfolio. I mean, it's a different portfolio loan, but like when you get loans against your portfolio to buy other properties, so they're tapping into the equity for it. So okay, I dig it.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, go Nico.
No, I love this conversation about these loans because building relationships with these small local lenders, the ones that keep their loans in house, can be really beneficial. Like having that option, Ben. I'm assuming you've already done loans with this bank before you even propose something like that, right?
Yeah, and it goes back to relationships. So they know me because I bank with them, so they see my bank statement every month,
and they all know each other in these small towns.
Exactly, and that's what it was. It was the property manager that I first started with, who has his contracting business. Like he does work with them, so he's like, "Oh, I work with this guy Ben. And he's been really great to work with, and I think you guys should tell them about these things." So they I don't want to say they gatekeep, right? But they want to work with who they like working with. So it's not like I knew any of this when I bought my first property. You just kind of talk to people and you try to learn, be humble, and just be approachable. And they like working with you. These things kind of things that these kind of old math.
Yeah, I will say these small banks. I don't know if you did this. Brian and I got this idea from RPM, of course. Was the credibility package. Nico and I have talked about this like a million times. And we did one of those and gave it to the small local bank. And right, wrong, or indifferent, they're not used to having investors come in with that level of detail and information about themselves. I don't know if you tried that, but I know with us, aside from everybody knowing each other and putting in a good word for us, when we sent that to the bank, they were like, this is phenomenal. We've never seen anything like this.
That's genius. I have one, but I've thought of it more for private lending. But yeah, I get that there was a bank I wanted to work with. Having one of those with kind of a pre-sold credibility, huge.
Yeah.
For those who don't know what that is, can you share like what a credibility package is and why it could be beneficial for private money or just going to the bank?
Yeah. So essentially it's like your resume, but it's like in a PowerPoint presentation. Like, so ours starts out with like who Brian and I are as people, like what our background is, what our goals are, what our current portfolio looked like, what projects we've completed. We had in there who our mentors were, as far as like who we can rely on if we needed to have like advisory, like an advisory council. So like Chad is we asked him for permission. He's like, yeah, of course you can put me in there. So we put Chad in there. We put Omni in there, which I don't know if Ben knows Omni, but that's another one of our mentors. And so we asked them for permission and they said, yeah, of course. So we put, investors that had much further or bigger track records than we did, just as these are the people in our lineup. And then we do have financials in our credibility package as well. as far as our net worth and portfolio. And honestly, we kind of, depending on who we're sending it to, we kind of peel pieces off. Like, so we have one big credibility package, but like if we're sending this to, like we've sent it to, we were trying to buy an apartment building and we wanted them to know who we were and why we wanted to invest there. We of course stripped out some of our financials because we're like, they don't need to know all our financials. But it's basically your resume. It's usually, eye catching, but it's just kind of like, this is who we are. This is our experience. This is what we want to do. And some financial data that we provide depending on who it's going to, like a private money lender would get that.
It increases your transparency as a borrower. You're letting people know your experience, who's your community and why they should lend money to you. And that could be beneficial. Any agent, any investor that's listening needs to build one, whether it's a simple one page, or if you very thorough, like Anna and myself, I built one as well that could help with private money or getting money down the road is always good, right?
Yeah, the template was in the community, so I have to give credit to Joe, because Joe in our group was the one that first put it out there and then shared the template. This is why we talk about community being so awesome. But yeah, especially when you're an out-of-state investor going into a new community, having this credibility package it's a leg up. We presented that same package to the city council when we were trying to get a permit. Like when we were first introducing ourselves, like they knew kind of who we were, but we're like, okay, let's go above and beyond. And most investors don't do that.
It's smart. And
especially if you're going out of market, Anna's investing in Virginia, but it's a whole another market outside of Virginia. So
like another country down there.
And Ben from California, you don't want, some Californian investors get a bad rap. So, if you're going into little Indiana and you're showing them that you actually mean well and you're trying to invest in the community, you can probably get some favorable terms from some of these local lenders and things like that. So that was our quick spiel about credibility package. But since we spoke last, Ben, I know you've been able to kind of grow your rental portfolio. So what does it look like now? And what does it look like in the next year or two?
Yeah. I think 8 units now that are, some are still kind of get stabilized. Some of those are duplexes. So depending upon how you count things, I get a little more, but that's what I've been working on. Then I have a couple of partners where we invest in the same market. They're kind of just following my lead because I thought it was investing. And that's been going pretty well too. We got 3 there. And then we actually just closed on a 4th with that particular group the other day. So trying to grow. And then, like I said, just trying to have some focus that, all right, once we get to the point where it's time to start selling and paying down debt, I think ones we want to keep and just kind of use that cap worth to give us more time and flexibility in our own personal life.
Okay. So since last time you were on, how many more units do you have since you were on episode 21?
Well, man, I don't know for sure, but probably half of that. So it's been pretty crazy. And we sold that mobile home. Yeah, we had a pretty big pair at the end of 2025.
So you're growing slowly.
Well, yeah, I guess it's all perspective. I mean, the first couple years, I think we're pretty, because I've been doing it almost 3 years now. So I think the first year was pretty slow. Second year, you get a little better. And then it's kind of like that, you keep doubling up kind of thing. So it really wasn't until I was thinking about how many I had. I was like, oh yeah, it really was kind of fast because we sold the mobile home. And I mean, that gave us some cash, and then the cash created equity, and we could borrow against the equity. And so then, it just kind of happened that way. And then I'm sure you guys know, as you invest, people kind of start bringing you deals that they know you can close, and it just starts rolling. It really is a snowball.
Yeah. After that first deal, people are like, you really are an investor. It's like,
yeah, it's amazing. I mean, everyone,
I'm a real boy.
I hated hearing that when I was, in the analysis paralysis, but it's so true. Like once you do that first step, credibility, like we've been talking about, is there. People know you're serious, and they start working with you more.
Yeah. Talk to us, Ben, about like deal flow. So, you hear all these people online, they're like, oh, you can't buy a house to invest or things like that. Where are you actually getting these leads from? Are you just going online, looking at Zillow and doing your own due diligence, or do you have people giving you their, off-market deal?
In the beginning, it was more me doing that. No one's probably going to look for a deal for you if they don't know if you're going to close or how serious you are. And then maybe after a year or so, people would start, hey, I got this thing here. Do you want to buy it? And I'm agents specifically. And I didn't always say yes to those. Some of them I wasn't comfortable with. But I think as you kind of just keep working and closing deals with agents, because I've done pretty much everything with agents. I think that's the way to do it as an out-of-state investor. I mean, it depends on your time and what you want to focus on, but like the off-market stuff, I know that's where you can get a lot of good deals. But I don't have the time like to do all of that. So I really just relied on agents to bring me things. I try to be really easy for them to work with. If they send me a message, I try to respond quickly. If they need funds, I try to get them over there quickly. If I can make their life easy, hopefully they'll want to bring me deals. And so far that seems to be working.
Yeah, I mean, we love to hear that you're using agents. I mean, we love off-market deals, but we love to hear that you're using agents.
We love agents.
We do. We specifically love investor-friendly agents. So I always ask our investor friends, like, what are you looking for in the agent partner when you're trying to get these next deals? Is there anything specific, any attributes that you look for in an agent partner?
We're all talking about good practices like, you guys probably heard the school bell. Good practices like credibility packets. I mean, buy box is good too. And that took me a long time to really think about, because as a beginning investor, I don't know if it really is possible with confidence, at least, to have a good buy box, because I just felt like, I don't want to let anything go. So it was really hard to do that. But as time goes on, you kind of figure out what you like, what you don't like. And so just kind of being able to communicate what you're looking for to agents, I think is really important, because then if something hits their debt, oh, that's what Ben likes. Well, Ben might not like this one. So the more they know about you, the easier their job is. And then you have to mean what you say, right? So if they bring you something, you got to be really willing to make an offer. And as long as you explain your rationale, like maybe they don't love the offer price you're doing, although the guys that I work with understand the investment game. But they at least appreciate an offer. I think people don't want their time to be wasted. And so that's really important.
Yeah, we've talked about that before too, like knowing like a true investor friendly agent, not just the ones that claim to be investor friendly. Like part of it is like they understand the lingo, but you're right. Like the ones that are not self-conscious about submitting insultingly low offers, you can usually tell.
Yeah, those are the best agents. Hey, I want to say, great, right? I'll write it up. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I think it's important if they're willing to do that on my behalf, that if they do send me something, I'm not dragging my feet. It's like, all right, I'm going to look at this and I'll get back to you in an hour or as soon as I possibly can. Because sometimes it might not be there tomorrow. Like you really might need to act quickly, especially if it's off market.
Yeah. The pro about, sorry, before you go, Nico, I was going to say the pro about having an agent though, that also understands, like truly understands investing. And when you come in with a low offer, is that they can turn around and then explain the offer to the other side. Because sometimes the other agent's like, I'm insulted. But if the agent knows what's going on, they're like, this is why this is offered at what it is. He has his margins, and then they can take it back. And then the other agent gets educated and maybe they can explain it to the seller and why. So I will say that's the other pro of having a knowledgeable agent, because then they can explain why you're lowballing. It's not really lowball.
No, if it needs X amount of work and it can only rent for X, then the offer can only be, we all understand that, right? But a non-investor agent might not, and that's why
they absolutely don't.
Yeah.
But Ben, I love what you said about like you as the investor, especially if you're doing out of state, you really have to spend time on, what you're actually looking for. And I know that's hard if you're looking to get your first investment, like trying to refine your buy box, because if you're just looking for a deal, if you're looking at everything, you're looking at nothing, right? Right. Some of our mentors say you really, really have to be refined, right? Like even zip codes, the type of homes, whether you want ramblers, how many beds, how many baths, how much square footage. And exactly what you just said, because like if a deal comes and it fits that buy box, who are they going to think of? The 5 other investors that are just looking for a deal, or the one or Ben who says, hey, I'm looking for X, Y, Z. And if that fits, then they'll reach out to you. So I really love, for everybody who's listening, that's really the first step, is obviously define your buy box, define why you want to get into real estate to begin with. Are you looking for cash flow? Are you looking for, an equity play? So I love that. I just wanted to reiterate that.
Yeah. And your buy box, like you said, can morph. I mean, at least if you know the basic, like, this is around my budget, this is my goal, like, then a good agent, all these reasons why agents can be good is that they can walk you through, like, well, this isn't really an appreciating market, or this street isn't, like, this section of the neighborhood, this area is more in line with what your goal is here. So you may not know exactly, like, oh, I want 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single hip roofs, cement, slab, whatever. You may not have all of those specifics, but at least if you have general, like, parameters, and agents, at least for those newer investors, can help guide you to, like, in the area, like, okay, this might fit into what you're looking for.
I didn't know any of that as a new investor. Because when you're new, you just kind of, how is it going to cash flow? All I know is how to analyze a deal. And so all those other things you learn with practice.
Love it. So we talked about agents, we talked about contractors, we talked about lenders, but I correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you self-manage these. You work with property managers out there. So I know this is a learning lesson for a lot of people to begin with. Wink, wink, looking at it.
Yeah, I remember that podcast.
But
the apartment.
Yeah, what is your property manager, like, vetting process, or did you kind of luck out in the first one and you're working with them and everything?
He's like, it was fantastic. I love mine.
I did luck out for sure. Okay, so with property managers, I think their job is really hard to begin. So you always want to keep that in mind. And then other advice is to just check with referrals, check with banks, check everyone that you're talking to. How are you, what's the word on this, management company or so-and-so? And people talk. So you kind of have to listen between the lines. Sometimes they might not overtly say things, but just like their tone or things like that. So I think out-of-state investing does require you to be a good listener and kind of like reading stuff. I mean, I love property managers. I know they take the cut, but to me, it's worth it because, again, time is valuable. I have 2 kids, 3 and 1 years old, so like it's hard enough to find time, And if something is happening at any of the properties, I like knowing that the property manager will be on that right away, and they have a system. And I use 3 different ones. I think there's pros and cons about each one, but all of them do what they say they're going to do, and that's really all you can ask for.
Let's talk about that, Ben. So pros and cons, right? Every property manager is going to like to be communicated a little bit differently. I know we talked about a few episodes back and mentioned like, hey, we recommend being a property manager yourself so you know what you like and what works before you actually delegate. And I know that's a little harder, when you're doing out of state, out of market. But what are some pros and cons? And we won't specify on your actual property managers, but what you as an investor, what do you like, and what could be some of the cons?
I think most people's frustration with property management is when they want an answer to something and they don't get one right away. And so communication, again, being important. So if you're using like a big property management company, they have maybe thousands of clients. So I think understanding where we fit in their business as far as being their client is important to think about. And so if you're someone that, hey, they got a big system and I'm okay with that, like, great. I do use 2 guys that are pretty big, and I understand that I'm not their biggest client. So they'll respond, but maybe not right now or tomorrow. And if there's an issue, they've been fantastic. And then the other one I use is, the first one I started with, and he's small. So like if I call him, we're going to chat about Dallas Cowboys or whatever. He's also a fan, and I had to drop that in there at some point. And we'll tackle life a little bit because he's a small operation. But, at the same time, because it's a small operation, we're doing one project at a time. And I'm okay with it. So it just depends on what your goals are, what you can, tolerate, and what your preferences are as an investor. But again, I think reading into these people is the best way to grow your business because they're the ones dealing. I mean, all of them, for the most part, are investors themselves. They understand what a good investment is because they're renting them out. I think they're just a tremendous source of knowledge and value. And so I don't mind paying. They are well worth it to me.
Yeah, I have my own opinion. No, they're
I guess
good.
we've had
They're
different
good. They're good.
experiences.
No, they're good. And I will acknowledge, like, some of it is us, like, and when I say us, I love you, Brian, that like he knows like the cost of things. He knows how to fix things. And so some of it is, he's like, it's not necessarily we want answers right away, but like the invoice will come at the end of the month and there's like this long list of charges. And he's like, how much was it to change the thermostat? Wait, what? Like, that's what? Or like, and well, this is me personal, like none of our properties this month have paid their rent yet. It is now the 7th. And I'm waiting for the property management company. And I don't know how long I wait before I'm like, so are you going to tell me where my rent checks are? Because it's now the 7th. Because I haven't heard anything from.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I guess I do have a little bit of like selective ignorance on some of those things where I'm like, maybe I'm overpaying. I guess that's part of the California thing, right? Like, I mean, doing a roof on a mobile home out here, the one we lived in, we did a roof. It was like $25,000.
Wow.
Crazy. Out there, a roof is like maybe $7,000. So, like maybe I'm overpaying, but I have those binders, I think, from living just in a high price area.
Yeah, no,
but
Brian's
I
a
agree
techie
with
engineer.
that can be frustrating for sure.
Actually, Ben, do you mind talking a little bit about that? So like specifically on like, I know you do a lot of projects with construction and things like that. And as you just mentioned, a $25,000 roof may cost half of that in Indiana. Are you just leaning on the expertise of your people boots on the ground, or how does that work? Because I mean, I'm interested in doing out of state investing in the future, but I know labor costs, construction costs could be a little bit different. Is there anything that you're looking specifically to kind of guide you that way?
Initially, the first property I bought needed a new, and so this is kind of how I've done it for better or for worse. And I talked to like 2 different companies, and one was just through the property manager. So I guess it was like his sub or whatever. And then the other one was the lender that I was using for that deal had their own kind of crew that does these things. So the numbers came back pretty much the same. I don't remember which one was cheaper, but I was like, well, if the guy's managing it is pretty close, maybe if it's a little more expensive, just let him do it. Like I don't really want to quarterback too much. And again, some of it might just be selective ignorance and an area of growth on my part to like dig in and see if I'm getting the best deal or maybe overpaying a little bit on some of these things. But I mean, at the end of the day, the numbers work. A lot of times I'm just using the bank's money anyway to finance a lot of these rehabs. So I guess I don't lose too much sleep about it, but it is something that I could grow in if I wanted to dig in a little more and be a little bit more, calling companies, getting quotes. And I know people that do that. I don't necessarily want to.
Yeah, no, I get that, man. I mean, it really depends on the type of investor you want to be, right? Like if you're granular and you want to get every single detail, essentially you're becoming the general contractor yourself. I know I have friends that are very involved and they're basically the general contractor. Whereas, hey, if you're, not at all, you don't have the time, you have 2 little kids, you're working full time, and you're like, hey, it's okay to pay a little bit premium if somebody else is handling, all the pricing and everything like that. Maybe it just makes sense for you as an out-of-state investor, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably where I'm at on it. And as long as the job gets done and it gets rented and it cash flows, like I can live with that. And, I'm not saying that I'm that far away, from getting really into it, but probably something I could look more into if I want to. So, I mean, I know a guy who lives in California that's investing out there too. And he was telling me he got a roof done for like 4 times. And maybe but he does what we're talking. He's on the phone calling, posting in the Facebook group, trying to find who's the best deal everywhere. But that's what he does full time. So like maybe if I had more time, I would. And if I ever self-managed, I probably would do it just to kind of get some experience on what the prices could be and kind of navigating that. But I haven't found a property where I want to do that just yet. Because most of them come through the agents who have their team. So it's like they want to buy this deal and then not give it to, you know what I mean? Like, I want everybody to keep one team.
So the next couple of months and the next couple of years, what does that look like? I know you mentioned you scaled up, relatively quickly. I know you said eight units or 8 properties. But what does it look like? Do you have any plans to continue to scale or? Um,
Yeah, I think I'm focused on buying good deals still. Right now, I got some projects. So the end of the year goal, I'm not thinking 5 years yet. The end of the year goal is just get everything kind of as stabilized as possible. And then going into next year, I'll probably do some reflecting closer to the end of the year about what kind of growth numbers am I thinking to hit in terms of scaling, but then also just in cash flow. And I have one that I've talked to some people about, like, should I pay it off or not? Because it's within reach, but I just haven't been able to part way with the capital yet. So just trying to nail that down and think about cash flow numbers too.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, when the builder phase, everybody's focused on building, buying, but at some point you need to make sure you're stabilizing and maybe, doing cash out refis or refis to stabilize the actual portfolio and self-reflect, right? You don't want to go so fast that you buy some duds just to buy it.
Right. And I think we can do those phases together. Not harvesting, building, or maybe harvesting. Yeah, building up, and then also like enjoying what you're building as you go. And so the way I experienced that with the partners, because they're a lot slower. Like that entity moves slowly, but we held the property in cash for a long time. I was like, it's sweet. Like, no mortgage, we're getting a lot of cash flow here. And so my thought now is like, maybe I can pay off, the second one here. And, now you kind of have like a stable boat that's being floated, and maybe you can buy something a little nicer that doesn't have quite the cash flow because it's all in the same bucket and you still have the money coming in from some that don't have mortgages. So I think we can do these things at the same time. And that's one of the benefits of being in kind of the lower cost market. You can get a little faster.
Love it. So I know you're currently at work in school, and I'd love watching you on the socials. You do a great job of like teaching certain things about. I know you focus on real estate, but you're a teacher of financial education or financial literacy. How can you help like the younger generation? I know you're talking about different financial aspects and things like that, but are you weaving in the real estate at all?
Yeah, our next unit in the personal finance class is on investing, and they've already done stocks and mutual funds, so we can talk about other asset classes. So I'll definitely be doing some real estate with them. And I think I told that to one of them today, and I'm like, oh, it sounds like something you want to do. And it's like, yeah, but it's good for you guys, learn how to house hack and stuff like that. So for the youth, I mean, like we kind of talked about off camera, I think a lot of people just don't grow up talking about finance or learning how to read financial statements or just thinking about money in a healthy way. So I'm just trying to share with the kids like what I've learned, and the driving force behind me kind of wanting this class to exist at our school was just watching how many of my friends got into crazy amounts of debt, usually for college, and then like not really knowing what they want to do, but they can't change paths once you have the debt. Like you're just kind of stuck with it. And I was lucky. I went to community college, so that basically was free for 2 years. And then when I transferred, I went to Gonzaga, but because I transferred, I got a pretty good scholarship, and I were able to pay that for 2 years. And my parents helped me out with that for sure. But if you can mitigate the cost of college, I think that just opens up so many doors. And so I really am motivated to try to get kids to really think about college. And even if you have the money, like, is that the best use of your money, right? Because money has an opportunity cost to it, especially now with AI changing everything. More than ever, I really think we should be careful about signing up, pay lots of money, whether it's in cash or a loan, to go to college. I mean, I think it was the CEO of NVIDIA the other day was talking about how he's predicting that the service jobs, the electricians, the plumbers, those are going to be the jobs most in demand in the next 10 years. And colleges aren't teaching you how to do that.
Oh, that's funny, because I know part of the reason we invest in Southern Virginia and Danville is because Brian and I obviously have Navy connection, and the Navy have been investing a lot of money in these smaller town, blue collar towns for the local colleges to do like electrician, pipe layers, those types of trade, because they're in short supply because it's not super sexy to be an electrician or a plumber or a pipe layer, but they still need them for things like building submarines and boats. And those are the kind of things that I think you're right. I think if someone goes into that field, they can make a pretty high dollar amount. And that's not something that colleges are normally teaching. And unless you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or something that requires like advanced schooling, because, I don't want someone to chat GPT how to remove my appendix.
Oh man, yeah. That's a whole nother.
A lot of stuff we're going to be able to like self-teach. I mean, YouTube University has come a long way, and with ChatGPT, like lots of people can make good livings without drowning themselves in $100,000 in college debt.
Yeah. And to your point though, I agree. Like, crawling under a house and redoing the plumbing maybe isn't awesome, but do that for a while, you get good at it, and then you become the owner of a plumbing business. You know what I mean? Like, we need to teach kids about like the entrepreneurial aspect of all this stuff too, and the idea of working for yourself. I admire you guys as agents. I don't know if I think I told you guys I'm trying to become one out here too. But I just love the idea of having your power to make choices about what you want to do with your day. And you can still do that even if you go into a trade or something and own your own business eventually. Because I really think that's what gives people the most freedom, is when you own your own business, because you're calling the shots.
Yeah, that's a whole different episode where I'll go into, yes, it is. But at the same time, it's like keeping yourself. It's different when someone isn't telling you how to spend your entire day, like work day.
True.
And you got to actually do it for yourself.
Take some self-discipline for sure.
That's
Right?
true. I do get a little lost in the summers when there's no schedule.
So just be warned, that is something like there's a double-edged sword here, because at first I was like, man, I don't have to turn in a report on a certain day. I don't have to do this by this time. And then all of a sudden I'm like, the day's over. And I'm like, man, I was busy doing, I don't know what I was doing, but I was busy
Anna's
doing.
got squirrel brain. She's like, oh, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. And then you look
Right.
at
That's fair.
what did I do?
I did a lot of little things, but I don't know what they add up to. But I was going to say, I agree. I think being your own business owner is something we need to teach kids. I will say one of the challenges that I think I've seen with my kids and with other, like their friends, is the social media. Like, and that's why I said it's not sexy to be a pipe layer or a plumber, because they also see social media and they see kids on there that are like doing, some are good videos, some are stupid videos, and they're like getting rich and they're like flaunting, I don't know, whatever it is that they do nowadays. That's like, oh, I can go online and I can make money that way. So that's a different problem. But I know you're using social media in a more productive way. Like, what are you doing with social media? Like, what's that doing for you? Have you noticed anything coming out of that? I want to know more, because I've seen your video.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the niche still, where exactly it's going. I mean, initially I just started with the out-of-state stuff and in real estate only, but I think I'm trying to lean into some more broad topics and just kind of put information out there that I think is useful. I think when it started, it was just kind of like, I'm going to put it out there. It is what it is. And now I'm starting to think more about, all right, what's my reach? How can I get a little bit more viewers? What's working? So I'm starting to think more intentionally about the results, which maybe isn't a good thing. I think more about what am I putting out there? And so the goal is just to help people. I love connecting too. I mean, that's partially how I got into RPM, how I met Ito and a lot of other people that I wouldn't be talking to if not for social media. So I do think that's pretty cool. And it's just kind of a fun hobby, it's something I like doing myself, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, no, and exactly. Ben and I actually connected because he's been putting out these videos consistently, and we'll make sure to plug your socials later. But I love it. I mean, that's initially how Anna and I kind of started putting out content. And you look back, you're like, oh man, the earlier ones are so cringy. But I think
you can't even hear me in the first one.
You can't even hear in the first episode. But I think the more consistent, you're putting out new content and on different topics. Like I think you made a video the other day about amortization tables, and people that are first-time home buyers or just not involved as much as you and I and Anna can really buy bite-sized clips. Nowadays, everything's bite-sized, but under a minute, then you'll have their attention. Otherwise, they'll keep scrolling. And I think you you have been doing a really good job, like actually putting up, updates of your flips, or a tenant moves out, and somebody can expect when a tenant moves out, and you're very transparent, which I love, because that's what our whole show is about, is trying to just talk through experiences, and not only the win, what's beneficial, but also the not so.
I was just recording a video I'll post later about termites that we found. It's like, so it's not always good. There are things that come up, and got to be transparent, because we're not selling a vacation. It's, sacrifice, but I think one that's well worth it because of the upside if you stick with.
Yeah.
So Ben, you mentioned you had 2 little kids, which is, awesome. What are you going to try and teach them about, obviously financial literacy? You're a teacher yourself, but specifically about real estate. Is there anything that you're going to try and weave in and, help them on, their journey once they become young adults?
Man, I've not thought about that. I should. I think just knowing how I was raised, like my dad and, I guess my grandma, right? She owned kind of some properties that my dad managed, or I should say buildings, apartment buildings that my dad managed. And he would bring us in as kids to like rake the leaves and clean, paint out turnovers when there's a turnover, repaint the units, stuff like that. And so that was cool. Like I saw the importance of hard work. I kind of got exposed to real estate that way. But that was kind of it. And I think just getting older and learning more about my dad, like numbers aren't maybe his strength. Like he's good at all the other stuff. So he never brought us in on that. But at some point, like that family business is going to get passed down to me and my siblings. And so we don't know exactly what it will look like. But I think bringing my kids in the same way, like, hey, you guys can go work. But then maybe trying to embed some of the teaching too about like, what's a loan, and how does some of the financials work, because they can then get those tools and learn how to build their own business, as well. And then even with my portfolio, which is for them, like teaching them how it works and all that stuff, it's something I'd like to do too. And yeah, some people don't like numbers, so we'll see how it goes when we get there. But,
and to your credit, I mean, there's 3 in 1, so it's okay for you not to think about that just yet. But
they're still trying to learn what money is. I think we were at Costco the other day, and they wanted to eat the cookies before we paid, and I was like, I want to pay for it, guys. We got to give them the money. That's how I was raised. So like, they have no idea what I'm talking about yet.
But I feel like that's your niche. Like all of my brain, all I keep thinking of like you are like teaching financial literacy. Like, I don't know. That's like your niche right there, is breaking it down into bite-sized pieces and explaining investing in financial literacy as if you were explaining it to your kid, but you're putting it on a platform. Like,
yeah, no, that's true. I mean, I will do those things with them. I guess they're just not in teaching. There's kind of this saying that like you can go this far, but like at some point the kids have to come here to be open to it. So just waiting for them to get a little older, I suppose.
Yeah. No, I'm just thinking about your social media platform. I've moved on from kids.
Oh,
but that too. Actually, Ben, I'm not sure if I asked this last time we spoke, but I know you're married, and is your wife at all involved in the real estate, and what does she think of it if she's not?
I love that smile.
I wonder if she'll listen to this.
Don't worry, we could cut this out of.
No, it's fine. My wife is beautiful, amazing, awesome. Couldn't do any of it without her. She's
good
one
way
of those
to say
don't love numbers.
And like, he's too bad to not end up on the sofa.
She's one of those people that doesn't love the numbers. I think I've tried explaining like inflation or even before real estate, just as a concept to her. And just, I don't know. I need to think of a different way to explain it. Or I was recently going over a refinance with her, and it just, some people, granted, I could maybe use some visuals, but she's more supportive than anything, and really has given me her blessing to just kind of like do what I believe is best for our family. And, we haven't had any catastrophe yet. So I think she trusts me, and, I too value that a lot and want to show her like, hey, this is working. So that's where I'm hopeful that as I think about the cash flow goals for next year, maybe Disneyland is paid for by, this rent here, see how it's all working and that kind of stuff. So, that she's been awesome, just maybe not so much in the active manner, but definitely in the supportive manner.
And I mean, numbers may not be her superpower. Like at some point, maybe she likes to do the artistic side. I don't know. Miko, Jess and Miko have different personalities, and Brian and I do. So we don't focus on the same things at all.
That's a great point. And I think because we're out of state, there's not a ton to add there yet. But if and when I get this realtor's license, seeing where that goes, I mean, she could help so much with the Spanish. She's a marketing genius. Just as an example, we run clubs at schools, or, any event with her, the kids are going. They know. She's the, so I can lean into her on that for sure. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's the most important part, Ben, is having a spouse that is supportive, even if she's not actively involved, but she understands, the value of real estate. She trusts you, and doing all these numbers and paying for a vacation through cash flow. That's the best way to show that, hey, this is working, real. Right? This is real. This is real. But I know we are running close on time, but I wanted to touch on community, right? So, you and I met through social media. But since then we joined, the Rental Property Mastery. How has, community helped shift your mindset and in your real estate journey?
I think it's an accountability thing. It's funny. I remember you guys interviewing, I'm going to forget who it was, but it was right at the start of the new year. So 2025, I think he's a Sun 2 guy. Maybe his name was Tim. And he was talking about how communities that are paid, really you step up because you have money down. Your money's where your mouth is. And that really stuck with me. I'm kind of, but I was, adverse for a little bit because I was I'm successful so far. But joining RPM was awesome in so many ways. But the biggest, I think, benefit to me was, all right, I paid for this thing, so I'm going to force myself to get value out of it. I'm going to apply the things that are being taught. Specifically, there was a 90-day to your next deal course, and I really tried to follow that to a T. And like I said earlier in the episode, we were able to get a couple of rentals in the last 2 quarters here. I think 3 of them. Well, I guess 4 with partners, just by really following those steps. And the simple one was just, run the numbers and make the offer, as opposed to in the past where it's run the numbers and I'll think about it. So that's been huge. So the power of community is awesome. People are willing to share resources, or if you have questions, you can, ask. And even just seeing people's success is inspiring. Man, Miko was working on this flip, and I know it wasn't an RPM, but listening to I know it was a horror story, Anna, but listening to that, it's just man, I really should check on some of my systems. I learn from people all the time, being surrounded by people who are sharing what they're doing.
And not only that, Ben, I think, in the community, help somebody actually with your team over there in Evansville buy properties, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that was my guy, Terrence. And he got hooked up with one of the crews that I work with, and he bought this duplex, and I actually appraised a lot more than I thought it would. So I was really happy for him. And maybe we'll all be buying something there someday. I really want to, I guess, going to goals. I don't know if this is a 5-year, 10-year, but getting something big, in a 10 unit or something. That's what, we do in my family out here. We have a couple of those, and I think that'd be awesome. So I don't know how to do that, but maybe that's a goal for the future.
But you're in a community full of investors that have done it. That's the best part of these communities. And it's not just RPM, but other local communities. You get to leverage everybody's 10,000 hours, right? If you mentioned a 10 unit building, I guarantee there's a few different people in our community that have done it, that can give you advice of what to do, what not to do. I think that's the fastest way to learn, is obviously, do it yourself, but also do it smartly with advice from people that have already done it, right?
Yeah. We don't have to have all the answers. We just have to have the humility to ask for help.
And the network to know who to ask.
True. You don't want to ask just anyone. You want to ask Anna and me.
Well, and Ben, or anyone else that wants to join RPM or hang out sometime. But it does make my heart happy that you're I listened to the podcast and one of your guests said this, and it really stuck with me because doing a podcast, it is, we're talking to each other all the time, and we were talking to guests sometimes, but we really have no idea what people are listening or if people are doing anything with it.
It landed. I remember specifically, I was on a walk with my oldest, and I was on the street I live on. I can picture it all, and I was like, yeah, I gotta do.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
We've been really appreciated this convo. We'll have you come on once you get that 10-unit building. But for those who want to follow you on your journey, I think you make some great videos, great content on social media. Where can they follow you?
Instagram is at cashflow.with.bido. And then my TikTok, which is new, is the same. So I'm still trying to learn that whole thing out. So those are the two best places to find me. I'm really one messaging on that. So that's no BAs and it's just me if you're talking about.
And he answers all his DMs. Let me speak for you. That's how we connected. But yes, reach out to Ben, follow him. And then you can reach out to me at N Garcia Official. And you can reach out to Anna at
I'm Anna Bialik _realtor on Instagram and Anna Bialik everywhere else. I almost forgot my name.
That's going to do it for another episode. Please like, share, subscribe, and tune in to the next episode. Thank you, Ben.
Yay. Thank you.